In this video, I want to talk about using the foot bar as a support system for students when they're learning exercise. As teachers, we often have challenges when it comes to pelvic stabilization and when it comes to understanding where the hips should be. Also, when doing exercises that require our feet to be on the carriage, it can give us a sense of unsteadiness to where we're not going to build the confidence we need to be able to do standing work on the carriage itself. Now, the most often used standing on the carriage is going to be standing side splits. Now, I'm in a studio where my main Pilates studio, all the reformers are 18-inch and there's concrete floors. So just to make sure everybody's safe, I often use the foot bar for blocking. I wanted to share with you some different ways that I use the foot bar for intermediate, beginning, intermediate, and more advanced exercises to build some confidence. Now, for those of you with the infinity foot bar, you're going to be able to do the variations of moving the foot bar. But for those of you with standard reformer foot bars that don't move, you're going to just be able to kind of use it as a guide to understand how you can provide stability and also how important having that infinity foot bar can be for more clinical work. So I'm not sure limb length, height, you are going to have to play around with all these. Now, I'm on an 18-inch, so when we get to the standing work before we get onto the reformer, and each of these, this is a first part of a series. Today, we're not going to move the infinity foot bar. But just so you know, in the following segments in this, I will show you how to use the infinity foot bar for stability when we're actually up, moving it towards the back and middle. So, as I was just going to say before I got sidelined on segments, using the foot bar is going to be completely adaptable for your limb length and your reformer height. So, how I prop myself here is general. It may not be for you. However, you want to make sure that the bony landmarks that I'm using is the area in which you want to be positioning your body. So I'm going to drop this, and I'll drop it all the way down so you can see the brilliance of the infinity foot bar. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then all the way down. So I can get this guy out of my way if I want to. So I would probably say for the 18-inch clinical and for my limb length, I'm going to want it in the third hole from the top. Now, in my studio, when I teach my students how to use it, I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the ground so I can get them to where I want. So bony landmark, I want to be on the hip, just above the greater trochanter. So if you know just that side hip, that's kind of where we want. You may need to pad the bar. It's completely up to you. But when I'm doing side bending, oftentimes my students, they're hiking their hip, they're moving their hip, and this allows them to stabilize the pelvis. Now, I would consider this mid to low level, but I still use this in my all levels or even advanced athletic classes just when I'm doing more strength. So we're not going to do strength in this video, but as I work my students into a more strength position, I'm getting bang for your buck with this setup because I'm getting that stretch we want here, but I also can load the springs up and have my students work on some shoulder abduction exercises. So this is a great way to block the pelvis. It isn't moving. I can actually purposely add a level of rotation and put a hand on, and I'm also supported that way too. So some really great options for pelvic stability using the foot bar. There's the great way to do lateral flexion with a stretch. And for me, I have scoliosis, so getting something to help stabilize me on my scoliosis side that's compressed, this is another one that allows me to make sure that I'm not crunching and I can find that spine length as I go. Let me show to you back the other side. As I mentioned, pad the foot bar for sensitivity. However, it's a good massage for the hip too, so it really gets in there. If you can handle that discomfort, I recommend trying to get through it. The lean isn't extreme, so the amount of pressure is minimal, but I have quite a few students that just literally throws them over the edge for discomfort. So I've got myself set. I can start rotated out. I can start neutral. So I'm on the back of the butt if I want to add some stretches here for my anterior shoulder. I can go more neutral with my body position where I'm aligned with the box, or I can rotate and get more stretch there. That's where I have the hand on. Now, just like in the Pilates chair, and this is kind of reminiscent of a standing or a leaning variation of the side bend series. So I'll show you the same hand position I use with my students when I'm progressing them. So here is rotated out. I would probably definitely use a light spring when it comes to this one because I don't want the box shifting. We're going to change our hand positioning on the box. So I'm going to start with my pelvis rotated out, and I'm on the back of the glutes. Glutes are engaged, core is engaged. I'm extended in my spine, and I'm just pressing out. So my chest is to the ceiling. I can add arm, reach, and I'm getting a huge stretch bicep, forearm, carpal. Really feels good there. Now I can exaggerate the arm position, get more of an anterior stretch by moving the hand center box, staying rotated to the ceiling, so I'm increasing that range of motion and stretch. Please know the difference between a stretch and a strain. I want to make sure on my students that I'm rotating away and doing this that they're not in bad pain, that they're just in stretchy pain. So if you feel that you just need to decrease that range of motion, please feel free to decrease it. If you can go all the way out and in, find a range of motion that helps to mobilize that anterior shoulder. If you still have the ability to do more range of motion, move the hand all the way to the other side, rotate a little bit more, and find that nice stretch for that shoulder. I'm getting a little bit of rib stretch here. Going further, I'm getting a pretty big stretch there. So that's the option when you're rotated out, hand position. I'm going to show you rotated neutral with both my feet are facing forward. Standard hand position, center box, hand on hip. If I need a little extra support and I'm not collapsing, I can rotate toward the box. Make sure that you don't flex to get your hand there. So keep that spine nice and long, rotate towards the hand and hold on. So that's another option I like to have when I really need to stabilize my students during this movement. This feels really good. Next one, you can add that arm. You can add rotation in both directions. Thread the needle. So all the wonderful exercises we do sitting on the box with the different variations, you can do that too. Hand position again on the box. You can also change your hip position. Now I've got the foot bar, it's really wide. So I can take myself quite forward onto this, so the box is behind me, and I can do rotation away. Hold it, rotate down, bring it in. So I can adjust myself according. If I'm going to do a little bit heavier resistance, the hand needs to be center box. So if I want to get that anterior stretch and do some rotation of the trunk, this is excellent for two reasons. One, I've got that stretch, my hand is center box, so it's not going to move. And I've got the pelvic stability I need, so I know when I'm rotating, my hips are not moving. or it's going to give me better feedback to notice whether or not my hips are moving. So this is a wonderful opportunity for you to find different ways to use the footbar to stabilize. Now, let me go a little further and show you. So I'm center box with my hips. We talked about rotating hand under or over as an option for you, rotating here. You also have the option of rotating, grabbing the foot bar behind you and doing that. Depending on where the hand is, it's a wonderful, wonderful way to get nice stabilization and support holding that foot bar. Then you can go here. As I mentioned, you have the thread the needle option, rotation here. You have the option of putting your right hand on top of your left if you have that range in you. This is really great because all our students that are tight, that when they do rotation and their pelvis moves, this helps block. I could even move this down more so more of my thigh is touching and I'm in more of an angle. So you can play around with what works best on your foot bar. If you have the standard foot bar, you can also take a squishy ball and put it right there for some stability so we're not abducting or adducting the hip. I've done that before. So here, we talked about hand here. We now are going further and getting a little bit more movement here. Now my hand is center, so by taking it closer, I'm decreasing the amount of rotation. By taking it farther, I'm increasing that amount of rotation and stretch. Stacking hands, as I mentioned, 3 points on there is an option. The other option, and I've got my socks are starting to slide, because I think I'm just like, I should have those off anyway. So be careful of sliding socks. Instead of having them stacked, I can have them on one side of the box. If I want to get really aggressive, I've got this one here, underhand grab the wrist and hold there, or overhand, or even having it a little bit more forward is going to really stretch out. And I'm doing my scully side on purpose, so that's great. I've got the foot bar, the reformer flipped. I usually have the bar on that side, so I'm getting this stretching on the side that I really need to do. So using the foot bar for side bend stretches, you can also add a sitting element. So let me show you. It's going to require me, if you have let me go off camera over here. I'm going to grab a second box. If you have a studio where you have more than one box, this is a wonderful option to do. Oops. You just have to find that right height. Because I'm the 18-inch clinical, so very similar to the chair series. Here, I can use it to block my clients so they don't go too far. Also, it tells them where their ribs are. When my students are side bending, and you may also experience this, we're creating length, we're trying to create length, and what they do is they bend, and you see what touches. The foot bar is the armpit, and that's a collapse. So this gives students feedback as to where they're moving. Are they collapsing and hitting foot bar? Are they lengthening a little bit, hitting mid ribs? Or are they lengthening a ton and hitting lower ribs? So that's where the foot bar with this setup works. Now I'm on the Hooked on Pilates soft foam arc, which if you've seen, I absolutely love this. The limitless options you have now with this arc is great. Sorry, my eyes are we've got some seriously seasonal allergies going on, so I'm rubbing my eyes a lot, and I apologize. If you don't have an extra box to sit this on. Try to find something that works great. You can use the, depending on your reformer height, you can use like maybe like a Reebok step and perhaps the spine arc, like that I know Balance and Peak both have the, I guess it's just spine corrector. You can use a spine, try to find a setup like this, but it's really wonderful. So rotation here, you can also add a rotational aspect here. So I've got a lot of blocking available to me. Now with the Infinity Footbar, I can drop this down a little bit more. So I'm getting a nice support. It's going to tell me again feedback. Am I collapsing and ending up at my upper ribs? Or am I lengthening a way to do that? Stabilizing, I've got my leg against here. So if I want to go into more extreme range of motion in rotation, I've got this hand to help facilitate stability. Taking this hand, rotating as much as I can, which is about there, and to get to the box, I'm going to laterally flex my lumbar and then push. So there's a lot of wonderful opportunities to prop yourself in this setup. If you want, you can take this all the way up, hand under. Now that's if you have the Infinity Footbar, this works, and go out. And also give you feedback. Are you going out and bending and dropping your head? Or are you going out and hitting the ear? Or are you lengthening and really getting to between the ear and the shoulder? Using the foot bar for blocking purposes and actually body positioning purposes is very helpful. So let's go back to sitting forward, or go to a new option. Hands are going to be on the bar. The great thing about using the frame, depending on your reformer height, is I can prevent movement in the pelvis. So I'm using that to give me feedback. If I rotate one way or another, am I rotating from the hips or am I rotating from the upper back? So standard sitting lumbar flexion. Now, when I'm teaching movement, and this doesn't have to be huge when you're using the foot bar to teach and block, what you can do is kind of prep it like I'm showing you with this variation, where we're hitting the bar. So if I'm thoracically hyperflexing and I'm just going out like this, you're going to notice the triceps hit the bar. If I'm doing some decent lumbar flexion, I might get my armpits, the top of the tricep, to touch the bar. But if I'm really truly finding spine length, I'm going to bypass all of that and I'm going to get to my nipple line. I'll show you again using the foot bar to teach positioning. Triceps at the bottom, little bit of length getting some mid triceps, and as much spine length getting to chest and bypassing my arms. I'm not elevating shoulders, so I really want to make sure I'm not here. That's what's getting it to bypass the tricep, is finding that length. You also can lower it down if you have this Infinity Footbar to 4 and see whether I'm hitting chest and collapsing or whether I'm lengthening over that bar, finding that stretch. So the great thing about this setup, and as I mentioned, this isn't a big gross motor movement. This is a way to teach a blocking, to have students understand body positioning, where we're headed. Because when we're teaching all the flexion and rotation, we're always cueing them, where are your hips, where's your length? And this gives them, oh, okay, now I can feel where I'm at. I'm getting a sense, oh, now I know what you mean, teacher, when I'm pressing out my I'm thoracically flexing, or when I'm really getting that spine length and feeling the flexion come from lumbar, I'm hitting actually below my chest versus above my chest at my throat. So it's a good way to give students reference points, because as teachers, we kind of understand where our bodies are supposed to be, and we convey that to the students. However, a lot of the students that cannot understand, they may need this kind of setup to get a sense of where their body is. Because, I mean, so many students have no idea where their body is in space, and we need to give them little ways to help achieve and find that. So sitting, you can do this sitting, you can do this standing using the bar. So let me get this out. I want to keep these series segments like around 20 minutes, and we're hitting 20 already. So I'll go really quickly through the standing, and then we'll add on to this as we go. So anytime we're doing flexion exercises of lumbar or flexion exercises on hips, we have hips moving all over the place. So if I were to teach a standing rotational exercise, I'm going to first want my students to be stable. And I'm going to want this movement to be blocked, because so many students let their pelvis travel forward with simple hip flexion. This is going to help stabilize them. And then when we add a rotational aspect, it's very similar to the standing side, sitting, by using the foot bar to teach different blocking principles. We'll go ahead and start here on the next video and take it a step forward with some more standing exercises using the foot bar to block movement and to help stabilize movement. Thanks for watching.